Welcome everybody. This is session 5 and we call this session Living It Out. I'm sitting here with Megan and Megan is actually the one who writes a lot of our material. How are you today, Megan?
I'm fine, thanks.
That's good. I'm glad you're here with me. And she's done a fantastic job at producing a lot of our home group material, not just for this series, but a lot of our other series that we've done as well. This series itself, we've really taken the opportunity, especially throughout this lockdown period, to really focus on our relationships, our close relationships. And especially as we go forward, especially as lockdown continues, our relationships are just going to become more and more important. So it's really important that, I guess, going ahead as well, that we really take on and learn, I suppose, a lot about how to apply some of these principles in our life. I've got Megan here, and she's also been journeying through this from this whole series as well, personally, and she's got a little testimony she wants to share what God has done in her life.
Thanks, Quentin. Hi, everyone. I hope you're keeping warm. As we've been working from home, I've been writing this at home I live with my sister and my brother-in-law and my nephew as well, and his partner. So it's really good opportunity to test it out, because they were saying, oh, what are you doing? And so I'm able to share with them. So our relationship overall is actually really, really good and really positive. But there were some bits of the sessions I was sharing with them, so I decided to use them as a bit of a guinea pig. So one of the emphasis in some of the resource material is that it's not so much the big things that count, but it's the little things that you do day by day that really bring a lot more quality to the relationship, to show that extra touch of care and love. So one tip that they recommend for guys, is to say thank you, because apparently to guys, saying thank you is like saying to girls, I love you. But that's just what they say. So I thought I'd just test this out. So my brother-in-law, who does a lot of the cooking at home, and then I deliberately, of course we usually say thanks and everything, but I deliberately on some occasions really emphasize, oh, thanks a lot, really appreciated that. And one time I did that, he went, ooh. So it's like, oh yeah, I nailed it. I nailed it by saying thank you. And then my sister looked at me and she was laughing, but that's fine. The point is that there is that, you're making that effort to value the person and to improve the relationship. There was another one which was a bit more challenging. There was a financial thing that came up, and I was trying to work out how much I should contribute to an expense and everything like that. So I was challenged because I was doing the session which you just did the last time, which was being generous and about generosity. So as I thought about it and prayed about it and asked the Lord, I felt to give a particular amount, which was probably a lot more than what I needed to give, if you look at it from a legalistic point of view. But I did it, and I guess the appreciation, like I got a really, oh, thanks, that's really generous, and an acknowledgement of that, which is good, because, I think doing those things, although it's at some level of a cost to me, it's not a big level, because relationship is the main thing that's important in our lives. And these are my family, these are people I love and really do appreciate. So to be able to show that appreciation, I think is really important. So that's all I want to share with you today, is about making that intentional connection and putting some of these things that we've talked about over this series into practice, living them out, so it can improve relationships in our lives. And that leads to all sorts of opportunities, and your testimony, even as a Christian witness in the home, I think is really important. So that's all I want to share. Thanks, Quinn.
No, that's great. No, thanks for that, Megan. It's really great to hear stories like that. I love it how you talked about how even just small things that you do, it's not so much about the gigantic steps you take forward. It's the small everyday changes, I suppose, that you're making in your life to make your relationships healthier. And I think that's what we wanted to achieve for this series, was to be able to see relationships change over time, knowing that it takes time for these changes and transformations to happen. Look, just with the 4 sessions, hopefully you've caught up with all the 4 sessions. Even if you missed one, they're all there for you to read as well. Just to recap just briefly some of the sessions that we have covered and some of the topics we have covered. In session 1, we looked at truth in love, and we looked at about how the importance of truth, but not just in telling the truth, but in how we tell the truth, and how we show intentional kindness in telling the truth. And that's a big part of having a healthy relationships. And in session 2, we talked about conflict and differences, realizing the importance of resolving our differences, because our differences often cause us conflict in our relationships as well. The third session, which I really liked, to be honest, was called the inner heart. And I love the words, the phrase that even we were using throughout this session, where we're saying that we need to learn how to boss your feelings around. And how do we think positively about the other person? In what ways can we help ourselves think through the situation and think positively about what the other person does, instead of always thinking the worst about the person that we love. So this session, we're hoping that you'll spend the first part of the lesson actually sharing and reflecting on some of the areas in your relationship that you've been able to work on, even, and what are some of the experiences that you've had as you've tried to work on some of these things. What are some of the changes you're going to make, even? What are some of the praise points that you're going to have? What are some of the things that you are finding difficult and you need prayer for? Why don't you share these stories with your group? And I hope that out of that, you'll be able to encourage one another, that you'll be able to persevere and keep going in trying to make your relationship as healthy as it possibly can be. The second part of the lesson, which Megan's going to touch on, it talks about the 5 love languages, and she'll talk to you about what we want to see you do there.
Thanks, Quinn. Yeah, so there's the 5 language quiz. We put a link in the notes, but if you want to jump on, it's www.5 lovelanguages.com/quizzes. So it takes about 10 minutes to do. If you can do it earlier, that's great. But it's really useful. Love languages is really useful in knowing how to connect, as I was talking about earlier, about intentionally connecting. So the 5 love languages work in any relationship. So it's not just with your spouse. Me, I'm not married, but I kind of use it because I look at and try and understand people better by reading into what their love language might be, and then communicating towards them in that context. So there's words of affirmation, which means that the words that you say are really important. Often people with prophetic gifts, this is their love language. It's quite interesting. There is a tie with spiritual gifts and the love languages. Conversely, criticism or negative words spoken with someone that has that as a primary love language can be quite detrimental. Acts of service, which is one of mine. So if you want to show you appreciate me, help me. It's just about helping people. So it's about that practical thing that you can do for other people. Affection or touch is another love language. Often people with gifts of healing have this love language. So it doesn't necessarily mean a sexual thing. It can be just a touch on the shoulder, or some light touch or hugs, things like that, which at this time of social distancing or physical distancing is quite difficult for those people. So you can understand that too. Quality time is almost everybody's love language. If it's not primary, it's secondary, which means that just spending time with someone, you're not necessarily having to do something or to have an objective or whatever, but to spend time with them, spend time connecting, date nights, whatever it is, quality time will build and enhance relationships. Then the last one that they talk about is gifts. So people can feel appreciated. Some people really feel appreciated when you give them a gift. It's something that you've thought about particularly. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, whatever, but it's something that you put a lot of thought into.
That's great. So for me, the 5 love languages were revolutionary for my marriage, and for, I guess, looking at my kids as well. My wife would tell me I'm all 5 of those love languages, and but it's good to work those things out and understand about each other a bit more. Look, this is our final session. One of the things that we would love you to do as well, if you had time, is to, since we're in lockdown number 2, is to actually take some time to do communion together as well. So if you could even prep that up before the session, that'd be great. Doing communion together is a way that we can kind of bless one another, encourage one another as well in Christ. Now, out of this whole series as well, there must be a lot of different questions, and I guess as a follow-up to all this for relationships, we always have our pastors and our leaders available if anyone from your groups or even yourselves want to talk further about any of the issues that you have in your relationships. I know it's difficult during this season, but please feel free to contact one of us, myself included, and Pastor YC, and any of your leaders as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time during this session.